I wanted to make this video for those who are having issues to run this lab in AWS, specifically for those who want to run this lab in a free tier computer node. So I can tell you that now that is quite impossible to do that because of the amount of resources that we need to have allocated if we want to run this from the beginning to the end. I can tell you that I was able to go from the beginning to chapter 3, and then I got issues because I didn't have enough resources to deploy the COVID-19 application. So saying that is impossible. I tried so many ways to have this lab in a lightweight environment to be able to run it in free tier deployment, but it's impossible. The only way to do it in AWS is having a machine with at least these characteristics here. This is the recommended hardware that you need to run for running this experiment. And if you want to really run it in AWS, you might need to pay at least, I think max is $1. The one that I tried, it cost me less than $1, so that should be it. So for those who don't want to pay that and who wants to run it for free, and since we have experience in a cloud lab, what I'm gonna do is I already actually created a profile in Cloud Lab. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna log in into your Cloud Lab account, and then you're gonna go to experiment, start experiment, and then you're gonna go to change profile, and you're gonna search for Jenkins AWS. For me, it looks like my first option here because I'm the one who created, and it's something that I just tested. So for you, you might have to search for it. You select this profile, and then you just go through the steps. So you have the profile selected, you click next here, you put a name. I'm gonna just put Jenkins 2 because I already created another one, and the cluster that I'm gonna use is the Wisconsin one. You can use another cluster here, at least the ones that are in green are the ones that are available. I'm gonna use Wisconsin, and then I'm gonna go to next. I'm not gonna change anything here because 6 hours is more than enough to run this experiment. I'm gonna click finish, and it's gonna take me a moment here to make this resource allocation. So let's give it some time. Yeah, so here you can see how the experiment provisioning is going. In a moment, we're going to be able to see here the node as well. So let's just give it a time. You have the logs now. This might take you more time. It might take you less time. It depends on your internet connectivity. So I'll say about 5 minutes, 10 minutes max for this provisioning step. All right, so we are able to see here the node, the server that we just selected and that we are going to provision now. The same thing here, when we have the status ready and green, we can SSH to it. As well, let me just go ahead and show you the document that I just created. Basically, I put all the steps here that you need to essentially run Jenkins in Cloud Lab. See, from the beginning to upgrading all the software packages for the node, installing Java, Git, and the other dependencies that you need for this lab. So let's just give a little bit more time. Now it's already changing the status to reloading, so it's gonna be ready in a moment. Yeah, so in this file, I'm gonna pretty much give you all the command lines for not only the dependencies that you need to install in in the node, but also the libraries or the plugins that you're gonna need to install in in the Jenkins server as well. So let's just give a little bit more time to the node to be ready for us. So now it's still changing to reloading. I think that these are the two main, I'll say these are the two main time consuming parts of the lab. The first part is the allocation of the node, and then the second part is going to be probably when we have to update everything with the OS. So this one, and then the first command line that we have to run actually is the one that is going to take us more time. The rest is straightforward, just hitting command lines and you just go through it. Alright, so now that we have the node ready, what we're gonna do is we're gonna shell to the node, and it's pretty much instead of SSAing from your local machine, what you're doing is you're SSAing in the same website, in the same platform. So it's nicer than having to deal with SSAing to the node, and it's also faster as well. It's clear. Let's go back to the document that I just showed to you, and what we're going to do is we're going to update all the software and the packages for the node. This is going to take us as well a little bit of time. Let's just change here to make sure that we already have this done. So the plugins are going to start loading in a moment, and the newest mirror is going to be installed in the OS. As I said, this is the only the second step that is going to take us time, comparing with the other steps that we have to run. Basically, the allocation is the first step that is at least took us like 15 minutes or less, like probably 10 minutes, and this is for the mirror installation, so this is going to take us as well a little bit of time. All right, so the first command line took us around, I'll say, 10 minutes. So now we can continue with the second command line, that is to install Java. So in this version, for the Jenkins server that we're going to install, we need to have Java 11. It might happen that you might have more than one Java version, so I'm gonna also show you a command line that you can use to select Java 11 when you are going to deploy your Jenkins server. So we have Java installed. If we do version now, we should say that is the 11 version that we're having. So now we follow with the third command line. All right, so I've just put here like 3 different command lines that you can use with Java. So the first one is the one that I just used. The second one is to know the home where Java is installed. And the third one is to know how many versions of Java you have installed. So in this case, as you can see, we just have Java 11. So we just check that one and we should be good. We don't need to run these command lines anymore, at least for now. Then we install git I have already installed when I have updated the mirror of the OS, so that's why it doesn't show me here that I have to install again. So I don't have to do this. Then what we are going to do is we're going to use this repo to install Jenkins. So we download this repo and then we import a key file from Jenkins, and which is the latest version. What we're doing is we just upgrade that mirror and then we install Jenkins. You can just check this as something that we already have installed in the system. It's going 95, 99, and then it's installing and it's complete. Just clear our terminal. We enabled Jenkins service and then we start the service. I also put here another command line that at some point, if we need to check the status, we need to run this command line. So let me see when it's when I have already started. You just check the status and it has to be active. Let me just click here and select this as it's something done. Then number 5, step number 5, what we're going to do is we're going to the same thing, download a repository, a repo. Then we select the one that we want and then we install. So the thing is, when we install the Apache Maven server, it's going to install certain Java versions by default. So since we've just put Y here, it's going to install everything that is available in the package. So saying that, we may have more than one Java installed now. So that's why we're going to go back to the Java version here, and we're going to hit this command line to see how many Java versions we have, and then we're going to select the one that we need. So as you can see here, we have Java 11, 1.8, 1.7, and the one that we need is 1, so we just put the number here. And then if we do Java version, it should give us 11 as it says here. So we just clear the terminal. We go back here, we have Apache Maven installed. We have just configured our Java version as well, so we can check the version right now. And this is like a handy command line because we can see the version that we are installing, the Maven home, and the Java home as well that is integrated with it. So it might be important for you to copy paste the Maven home that we're going to need later for installing when we are setting our configuration tools in Jenkins. So let me just paste that here and let me just check that as something we have already done. So then we move to step number 6 and we install Apache Tomcat. The version that we are going to use is the version 9. The same thing, we download a repo, then we extract the repo, and then we change the name of the folder. This is just for convenience, and for me in particular, it's easy to find folders when I call them in a certain way. So that's why I'm changing the name. And then I'm gonna just remove the repo that I just downloaded and that I already used. I have installed Tomcat, so I don't need it anymore. So what I'm doing here is I'm just removing the tar file in this case. I have this step done. Now what we're gonna do is we're going to change this Tomcat users.xml file, and that's gonna be useful for us when we have to access to the Apache platform. Basically what we are going to be saying here is we are going to change who has access to what. So basically I put you here like some ways to do like the copy paste and remove from the editor, but for me it's usually easier to do just Command K. I think it's Control K, and then you can just remove everything very fast. Or you can just select everything and then you remove everything, but we have already this done, and then this is trick thing that I just told you to do, and then we copy this for the users and what users have access to what, and then we just save it. Yes, enter. We have this done, and now that we have the users change, we also need to change the port number, because by default Tomcat's port number is 8080, but as you might remember, the Jenkins port is also 8080, so there's going to be certain conflict when we want to run both servers. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the Tomcat server, and for doing that we check this command line and we go to the place where we have the server port, which is this. It has to be a connector, is this one. So we need to change this connector port 8080 to 9090. That's the port that we're going to use. And I also put here a screenshot of what we need to change. Is basically the port number 8080, you have to change it to 9090, and then you keep the HTTP/1.1 and the connection timeout to 20,000, and then the redirect port is still the same. So that's the only thing that we need to change, and then we saved. Yes, and we have this done. We're almost ready. And then we need to go to this folder, and what we're going to do here is we are going to basically make some changes on certain privileges that we need to avoid, because what we have done here in the previous step is giving access to certain users, and certain users are going to have certain rules or roles. So for that reason we need to make some changes to this file. So if you ls in this folder, you're going to find this context XML, and this is what we need to change. Sudo vim context, and then look for this context section here, and what we need to change is we just comment it out. We just need to go to edition mode first, and then this is a way to comment out easily. Then we use this. All right, and then we saved, execute, and then we right and quit. We see, and we go back to the home folder. We have this done. So what we need to do now is we need to start the server, the Tomcat server. So we just do it like this, and the server started. I also put here another command line that we're gonna eventually use it at some point when we need to stop the server. So I'm gonna just keep it in this way without highlighting it, because this is for shutting down the server. So we're gonna use this command line later. At this point we have Jenkins, we have the Java configuration set, we have the Apache Maven installed, and we also have the Tomcat server installed. So now we need some certain other dependencies and other software that we need to install in order to deploy the application that we need to deploy in Jenkins. So we are going to move to the root user, because we need certain permissions here. We're going to update again everything, software packages. Probably we don't need to update anything anyways. We download the Docker version from the website. Then we installed. It's getting a little bit of time. All right, then we change the permissions for the users, and then we install Docker Compose, which is going very fast, as you can see. And there you go, you have everything installed. Let's just highlight this one, then we start Docker. Then we change the Jenkins user and give it access to the Docker daemon. All right, so at this point we have everything installed in terms of the dependencies that we need from the node side. There are other plugins that here we're going to be installing it from Jenkins. We don't need this information because I already put it in the beginning. We might need to install MySQL as well, so let me just install MySQL. Say yes. All right, we can exit the root user. We have this done. All right, so right now we are into a point where we can go to the DevOps website and we can check all the things that we have to do. So we have the machine all set, all installed with the latest dependencies and all the software packages that we need to run the lab. So basically we can pretty much follow up from the platform. We can follow up from the platform starting from now. So in the first chapter, you have purpose of the lab. We are not going to deploy this in AWS. We are deploying this in Cloud Lab. You have some documentations and website related to the different technologies that we are going to be using. The overview, what is continuous integration, how is Jenkins doing all this automation here, how does Jenkins work, and pretty much here, after we run the first step of the experiment, you're gonna notice that everything like what you're committing from as a developer to GitHub, it can be connected to your Jenkins continuous integration server. So saying that if you have some production website or production application that you need to have this automated deployment all the time, so you need to have like a server that is going to do this continuous integration for you. So let's say you have a project that you're working with your team, you have different branches, and what you're doing is different people are committing different new deployments in your web application, let's say, as an example. So using Jenkins as a developer and as an admin of everything that is going on in the team's work, you can pretty much see if everything was built successful or if there is something failing, or you can also notify the team based on how the changes are being made and how the version control system is is going. So this is what we're gonna do in the first step. We have this distribution in the architecture. There you have this master and some of the executables as well that it can be run in remote machines. And as you can notice here, it's quite impossible to run it in free tier node, so that's why we're running this in Cloud Lab. Here, at this point, we are done with chapter 1, so let's just move in to chapter 2. And chapter 2 should go very fast since we don't have to do any of the VM instance preparation part. We need to skip all this 2.1 and so on. The step where we're going to start working on through the lab, we don't need to do this part because we have already everything installed. We need to start working in 2.2.3. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to the IP address and the port number that we're using for the Jenkins server. So we need to know first the IP of the machine. So this is the IP address, the one that we have here. So this is what we have to copy here, and the port number. And you have to show up the same thing that we have here, and basically we need a password to unlock Jenkins. To do that, we need to sudo to this file, and one way is to just move everything to root user, or the other option is to run this as I put in here. Pretty much you copy paste from the platform. You copy, this is the password, and then you paste it here, and that should unlock it. We don't need to save it. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to install the suggested plugins. By default, there are certain plugins that the community finds useful, so that's why we're going to be installing certain things that comes by default, I would say, but they're not all the things that we need to install. So by default, it's going to be installed Git, GitHub, the software that we need to work with Java applications, folders, pipelines, and so on. So this is going to take us probably 3 minutes. Alright, it's almost done. The first thing that you have to do is you have to create the first admin user. I'm gonna put 123, 123. I'm not saying that you have to use that one, but I feel like it's a password that I'm going to remember. And then your email address. You can also skip this part and just continue as admin, which is fine, but I just like to create my own user. So just save and continue. This is gonna be the link, I'll say the IP address and the port that we are going to be using by default. So let's just finish and we start using Jenkins from here. So let's go back to the Cloud Devs platform. We are already done with this. We customize the Jenkins with plugins. We create the first administrator users, and we are at this point now. There is a lot of information here to know exactly what are the different tabs. So you can see here in the main dashboard, as you can notice, it's a little bit different comparing with the one that we have here in the screenshot. That's because the version that we're using is newer. You pretty much have the same descriptions here in the tabs. The icons might be a little bit different. You might have also like the more functionalities with the newer version. So pretty much we can use a newer version to run this lab. So that's what we're going to do now. We move up a little bit more, and the first thing that we're gonna do is we have to add certain required library support to the project. So for doing that, we're gonna go to manage Jenkins and then manage plugins. So for checking for certain plugins, we need to go to available plugins and then write down or click here the plugins that we need. So it's telling us here that we need to go here. We already done that. We look for GitHub or GitHub plugin. So as you might remember in the first part of the setting, we have already installed that. If we go to the install plugins here and we put GitHub plugin, you can see it's all checked and enabled here, so we don't have to install anymore. So now we move to 2.5, which is pretty much configuring Java and Maven support, because for the first Hello World example, we're gonna run a Java application. So the first thing that we have to do is we need to go back to dashboard, manage Jenkins, global tool configuration. Then we look for JDK. At JDK, the name is going to be the same, and then the required Java home is the home that we already saved here before when we installed Java. So let's look for that. Okay, this is Java home. So we put that here, and then we look for Maven. At Maven, my Maven. Then since we have already installed, we just look for the home path, and then we saved. After that, we go back to the platform. We have done with this. We have done with this. The information here is going to be obviously different because we are installing different versions of Java and different versions of Maven. So you just need to follow with the video and check what is the version that you have in your machine. So now we move to the next step, and it's pretty much running the first simple Hello World Java application. And what we're going to do is we're going to fork a sample repository from GitHub, and what we are going to run is a Java application. So we go to here, dashboard, new item. It's going to be Maven job, freestyle project, okay. And then here we made changes, Maven job. We are going to use a GitHub project. So I already have here my link. So you need to fork this project to your personal account. So copy that here. You have to do the same thing for the source code management, which is Git. We don't need to put any credentials, but we need to keep the master here as the branches to build setting. So if we go back here, you can notice, and if you read the descriptions here of what you have to do, is pretty much what I just have done. You fork this project from this account, and next what you do is you change the description, you check GitHub project, paste here the project from your GitHub account. You click here in Git, you put the same link, you keep the branch specifier as the master one, and then go to build, and then you have to change to invoke top level Maven targets. So that's what we're going to do, build, and we have to invoke, and then here we look for the Maven application setting that we just created, and we need a clean package, and then we saved. Let's go back to here, and then we have everything here which is saved. And what we have to do is we go to dashboard so we can see the project that we just created. And what we have to do now is we have to build it. We just click to the name, and then we build now. You can see the different builds in here. It seems like I have an issue. So if I go to the console, it says the Java home. Okay, so it seems like the Java home is not set well. So let me go back to let me just delete this build and go back to the dashboard and manage global tool configuration, and let me change this to okay, let me just check that again. So it's this one. Let's see if I put the same. Yeah, it seems like it's the same. I don't know why it's giving me this error. But let me just try to run it again. So seems like it's success. Everything is now integrated. Go back to the job. I can see some links that are generated here, and that's exactly what I am seeing here. I have a status. If I click in status, I have permanent links that are created. Then what I'm gonna do is I just click in one. I already did that. I have two in my case because I deleted number one, and number one wasn't successful for me because I didn't configure my Java path correctly. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna see if we have this jar file created. So for doing that, we'll go back to our terminal, and as you can see, we have the jar file here created. And if you're not really familiar with Java applications, a jar file is pretty much like a package file format, and usually it's that the file that aggregates many Java classes and everything, like in terms of files and metadata and resources or anything like that is associated with that file or distribution for that jar version. And then it's like a zip format, or I would say something that encapsulates everything that is related to an application. So that's what is generated, and that's what we needed. So we're doing everything fine. That's what it's saying here that we had to do. Server.jar, we effectively had that. And then what we are going to do is we are going to add some triggers or build triggers to the project. So we're going to go back to the job that we just created. We're going to configure it and build triggers. And we're going to click in GitHub hook trigger for Git's CM pooling. So we click that one. This is what is showing here. And then we go to our repo, and we're going to make some changes to that. So click here, settings, webhooks, and then I'm going to change in this case because I already created one. So for you, you're going to have to add a webhook because you're not going to have anything here. But in my case, since I already have one, I'm going to just edit it, and I just need to change the IP address because it's different now. So I'm just gonna copy the first part, which is what I need, and I'm gonna paste that here, and I don't need this word. And then the content type, you have to change it to application JSON, and then you have to click to saved webhook because you're gonna be creating for the first time. But since I already created one before, I'm just gonna update the one that I already had previously. So this is what we did here. Went to settings, we changed with the IP address, then the port that we're using, and we're changing the application type. We add the webhook, and then what we are gonna do now is we are gonna make a change in our demo here. So let me just change this port, the readme, from the repo, and I'm gonna put here newer change for our video, and then I'm going to change that newer change, and I'm gonna commit the change. So if we go back to, we're gonna save it. I'll need to probably, yes, my bad, I have to save first and then make the change. Here, let me just delete the first part, and that's going to be the change. Let me just put here deleted one line, and then commit that. And then after that, if I go here, it's building, and go back to the job, it says pending changes, workspace is done, console output. And as you can notice here, what we're doing is we are using some like fetching changes from the remote Git repository, and as you can see, a change that you're doing or you're making in your repo that is linked to your server, to your Jenkins server, you can see it from here. So if I go back to status, I go to the job, and then I click to GitHub hook log. I can see here that effectively this is what I've just done. And yes, so that's what it's showing us here. Pretty much, you see, we are able to see a new job built automatically, and that was made from the change that we just made remotely from our GitHub repository. So basically, that was chapter 2, the preparation. We pretty much installed certain libraries. We configure Java, Maven. We created a simple Hello World Java application. We built that, and then we connected to GitHub, and yeah, that's it. That's pretty much from chapter 2, preparation. Now we move to chapter 3, and in here what we're going to do is we're going to create, we're going to use part of the project that we created in the first, in previous step, and we're going to continue with another kind of, I'll say, continuous integration process that it could be done using Jenkins, and for that we are going to be using the Tomcat server. So we're going to start with 3.1. There are not many changes in this chapter comparing with deploying this with Cloud Labs and the versions and stuff. So we are going to pretty much follow the instructions from the platform, from the DevOps website. So the first step is to configure the continuous integration part of the pipeline. So for doing that, we are going to go to the Maven job that we just created. So it's in here, we are in Maven job, and then what it's telling us here to do is to go to the configure tab, which is this one, and then we need to go to post build actions, which is this one, and we need to add I'll say archives on artifacts, or what we just created, and here we are going to find all the files that ends with that WAR, and that's what we're going to put here. So we don't have to have like a space here, so if you put a space, it's not going to find anything. All right, so then we just save it, and it says here we have to build now, so we just go to build, and you can see here we have build number 4. It went pretty much nicely, and the artifact that is found is that war artifact. So what is that war file extension? So it stands for Web Application Archive or Web Application Resource. So this is what we are going to use as a continuous integration. Right, so we can just go back in here. This is where we are right now. We just built, we have the status, it built successfully. After that, what we are going to do is we're going to rename the project that we have, the Maven project, to let me see if I can change it from here. Dashboard, Maven job, rename, change it to packaging. Now we have a different, we can change the description as well, just in case we get confused. We saved, and then we are ready here. We have to install certain plugins again, so we need to go back to dashboard, manage Jenkins, manage plugins, and then available plugins, and then we look for copy artifact, and it's this one, which is installed without restart. Then we need to look for a deployed to container. So we go back to available plugins, deploy to container, install without restart. It's pending now, it's going to install in a moment. And then we start configuring the continuous integration, or the deploying to staging part that we're going to be doing. And for doing that, we are going to create another project. So we go back to dashboard, new item, new project. The name that we're going to use is deploy to staging. We put that name in here. It's going to be freestyle project, the same one that we used previously. Say okay. Then we put the description, exactly the same as we have in the screenshots. We are not going to change anything here. We're not going to deploy anything from GitHub. So we're going to choose create a new project, and then we leave everything, and we scroll down to the build steps, just here, and we need to copy artifacts for another project. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy artifacts from the other projects that we just created. So the other project that we have is the packaging project, and then we skip the latest successful build. These are the extensions that we want. So we put that artifacts to copy. Remember to remove this space here, and then scroll down to the post build actions here, and we need to look for a deploy var EAR files. And what we're going to do here is we are going to connect to the Tomcat server that we just installed. We're going to use the version 9. We don't have any credentials, so we're going to add the Jenkins credentials. So username, I already put that by default, so we're going to use admin. We add that, and you're not going to use the same user password that is given to you here, because I already created like an admin file. I put that in the configuration setting when we were deploying Tomcat and when we were deciding on the users and what have who has access to what. So basically I just created a new user that has access to everything, so we don't have to worry about let me see, we already done this, so we already have a user. Just cancel, and we just look for this one, and then the URL is going to be the same IP address from here, but the port is going to be different. So if you remember the port, we changed it to 9090 because we don't have to have any conflict. We changed 9090. We have already done this part. This is a little bit confusing as well. If you're following the exact instructions here by the steps that is given to you based on the screenshots, you might get a little bit confused here because for some reason probably this person already had like a user or certain credentials that are already created. So that's why after that is explained here about the containers and the Tomcat version that we are using. You already use this, and we just saved after that. We don't have just saved. All right, so we need to start the Tomcat server on the VM instance. So basically we have already done that, but we can do it again or check if we have the Tomcat server up. So probably if it's already up, we're gonna have this message. So let's just go back here and try to follow the instructions. It says here your staging job has been configured but doesn't know when to build or to copy the WAR file, and then we have to activate the job from the main page, configure. Okay, so we have to go now to the packaging project, to this one, and what it's telling us here is to go to post build actions, configure post build actions, and we need to pretty much choose build other projects, build other projects, and we need to choose here the name of the project that we just created. So that's going to be what is the name of that? Let me check again. The name of that was yeah, let me just go back here and check. Just leave. Okay, this is the name that we want. Deploy to staging, this is the project name. We go back to dashboard, packaging, configure, and then post build actions. We need to we don't need this, we need here build from other projects, project to build, just this one, and then it says build other projects. We change the name, and then trigger only if build is stable, and that's what we are doing here, trigger only. and then we saved. So now if we go back to here, what we are going to do is we have to go to the packaging project, and we have to build this. So basically, if we go back to the home page of the dashboard, the packaging one is being deployed, and we see here that is finished successfully. Go back to dashboard, and as you can see, it triggered the build process, and we have both projects now successfully built. So that's pretty much what it's explaining here, the screenshots. So now, what if we want to get access to the hello world that we just created? So it's going to be the same, and the port is going to be different. It's going to be 9090 for Jenkins. And as you can see here, we have the 9090, server status, manage app, admin. We need to save, so you go to web app, hello world. That's what we have, and that's what is showing us here in the output. I know it would be easy just to show you the link here, the port number, and then the web app that we just generated, but I also wanted to show you that how you access to the Tomcat server. This is the way you access to it, and then you manage apps. And the first time it asked me for password, user password, but we are using, since I configured from the beginning to admin, so if we go to web app here, that's what it shows. So we have in the platform the application, so we just click on it and we can see hello world example, and that's what I'm just doing here. We are done with this step. Now I'm gonna go back to the dashboard, and I'm gonna follow with the pipeline. And so far what we have created here is 2 different projects. Both of them are linked to each other, and that's basically what we have just done. We have 2 jobs linked to each other, and then what we're going to do now is we're going to create a pipeline with them. So for doing that, we need to install again certain plugins. So let's go back to the dashboard. Just click here, manage Jenkins, manage plugins, available plugins. We need to install build pipeline, so we search for it, we install with our restart. Then we need okay, I think that's the only one that we need. We go to the dashboard page, we look for the available plugins, we install the build pipeline one, and then we just install it. So that's what we have it. And now we go back to dashboard, new item, and we're going to create right. So first, we're not going to create a dashboard. We're going to create a view. So we create a new view. We go back to the dashboard. So you click this plus icon here, and you're going to create a new view. So you have here the same screenshot. We name it my view, and then build pipeline view, and then we click create, description. We go to my view. Let me just put the same thing. Have to go to pipeline flow, this one, and we need to change to the upstream downstream config, and we need to put here packaging. And then what we are going to do is we're going to choose saved, because that's going to be like the setting for the initial job that we are going to create. So, and it's kind of the name that we specify for our continuous integration process. We just click in OK, and as you can see here, we have both packaging and deployment jobs here. If you ask me why we have all these icons here, I could say that if you're using the latest version, for some reason some of the icons are not allowed, or they need to be changed, like in the extensions in terms of the permissions. So that's why they didn't show up for me here. But pretty much is the same here as it's showing without showing the icons. So now we have to run the pipeline, and what we're going to do is we just click in here, and what is showing you here in the screenshots is we have on first yellow, blue, then we have only blue, and then we're gonna have, when the pipeline is complete, we're gonna have both jobs in green. So let's just give it a time. Still working. Just update a little bit. All right, so now we have both of them green. All right, so that was chapter 3. What we did here, pretty much, we use the WAR file that we just generated in the previous chapter, and we use that to create a web application that we use it in Tomcat server. So that's we just did, and then we created a Jenkins pipeline that we're going to use for the next step of the chapter. Now we went over a lot of work in starting from the beginning of the overview of what we're doing in this lab, installing, getting everything, the packages updated in our computing node that we have in Cloud Lab. Then we have certain preparations, we create different jobs, then we use these jobs to create a continuous integration pipeline. And now we're going to use a real-world web application, and we are going to use Jenkins to do all the management of the web application. So we have some information here of the web app that we are deploying. COVID-19 is a web application. It's actually a research based web app that was created from one of our teams from the lab. You can read more about it here, what it does. What we're going to do here is I've seen a lot of issues in particular because people were using this link from this repo, and there are a lot of changes that has made, I would say. So there are very much different versions, dependencies that has been updated, etc. So I would recommend you to go to this I'll say to this URL and clone it from there to your own GitHub repository. So that's what I've done, because if you pretty much forked from here, you're going to have issues with dependencies, and it's not going to build because the dependencies are newer compared with the ones that you have installed, or vice versa. So those are the kinds of issues that you might have. So I would recommend you to go to this link and clone it from here, because this is like the version that was working when this lab was tested. So go to this link, to this URL, clone it fork it from here to your own GitHub, and that's what I've done so far. So I have it here in this one. So this is the link that I'm gonna use, and I already have the link here as well. So this is the one that doesn't work. So just the same thing I'm saying, let me just delete this from here. Go to the link, the URL that is shown in the screenshot, clone from there, fork it from there to your own GitHub account. All right, so let's just follow. What we are gonna do now is we're gonna create a pipeline. This is the name that we are gonna use. Let's go back to dashboard, a new item, name of the item, pipeline, okay. And then we just put the description, which is going to be the same. And then we need to go to build triggers and click in that, the same thing that we have done in the previous chapter. And after that we need to go to the pipeline. So it's going to be a script, and we need to get git and put the URL repository, the one that you just forked to your GitHub account. So let me just paste that here, and then credentials you keep the same. The master, the branches to build, you keep master here. Then you go to the script path, and that's as well, you just keep it in the way it is. You save it and go back to your GitHub account. We don't need this anymore. And this is the web application I just forked in my personal account. Go to setting, I go to webhooks, and then I edit this. Again, I have created this previously, so I need to update my IP address with a newer one. I don't need this too. Let me close it. And I need to go to my link here and paste it. I don't need this link. Application JSON, update webhook. And that's pretty much what I had to do. So then if I go back to the website here, I can check. I put the content type as application JSON, and then I just add webhook because I've never created one, but since I already created, that's why it told me to update basically. But after you create that, it tells you here just to build your pipeline, but there are certain things that I feel like you should be able to do first before you build it. So this file that is telling you here is the same file that you have in your repo. So if you go back here, is this file. It's showing you pretty much the pipeline, what is happening here in the stages of when you deploy this web app into your Jenkins server. So that's what it's telling you here. Now you have to go to this link from the GitHub repository. So let's do that. Now COVID-19 here. This is the web application, and it says that we have to go to demo COVID app, this one. Then we have to go to COVID-19 website, this folder. Then we have to go to source, main, and then resources, templates, and then index HTML. And it's telling us here to change the following, this part. So let's look for this part. Is here. So I already changed this before, so that's why it's showing me here. It's already uncommented. So let me just uncommented line, and then I commit this, and then we have to go to this link. So let's go back to the main folder. Then we go to COVID app, COVID-19 website, source main resources, source main resources, then JS was templates, I think, not statics, static JS, and then Angular services. Oh, it's not that one. JS Angular services, JS Angular services, main service. Is that right? Let me check. Yes. So it's telling us to change this line to the IP address that we are using now. So that's what we are going to do. I already changed this previously, so I need to update this IP address that I used previously with the new one. So this is what I need to copy here. Let me just update this with a new IP address to delete this, and I change the IP address, commit, and I have to update it. So then we have to turn off the Tomcat server. So remember when I told you that we might be needing this command line, so this is what we're going to run in our terminal here, because otherwise you're gonna have conflict between your COVID-19 application and the hello world that we created previously. So that's why we do that, and then we have to change the permissions to the Docker folder. Let's just keep it the way it is right now. So we're gonna see the issue. I think I have already changed these permissions, but maybe let's just run it just in case. And then let's see how it goes. All right, so now we have the pipeline. We have just saved. We made the changes accordingly in the GitHub repository. So it says now that we have to build. So let's see how it goes. The first time that we build this, it might take us a little bit longer comparing with like the second and third time that we are running it. There are a lot of dependencies that are being installed, a lot of Docker clusters that are being deployed, as well. There are a lot of settings that are going behind, so that's why it takes a little bit more time, especially the first time that you run it. So if you can see here in the console output, a lot of things are happening. In the first step is just copying from the GitHub repository. Like the different errors that I had previously in the previous builds, I'll say that I use this console output a lot to see where was the issue, and that was very neat in the sense of what were exactly the places where I needed to fix. So it would be important to see and to check this console all the time. Let's just wait on the building now. Yeah, we're in this step right now. we check the console output, yeah, as I mentioned before, there are a lot of things that are being installed, dependencies for the web application. So this is where you might have some issues as well if you forked to something from somewhere else that is different from what is shown in the screenshots here. Okay, let's just wait here for the pipeline to finish building. Alright, so it seems like it has been built successfully. Go to the console output, we go to the last part and it says finished and success, so we are good to go for the application deployment. If we check here, we didn't have to do this part because we already done it in a previous step when we installed Docker. So now we have to go to this link. So if we update this, it's not gonna work because we just turned it off. So we need to call web. We just copy paste here. And I don't know why the space in here doesn't make sense to me, but this is what it says. This is what it shows here. It's just with a space, but it should make sense that we don't need the space here. And then it has to be your IP address, which is this one. And then we put that here, the same Tomcat port, and we just enter, and let's give it a little bit of time because we just deployed this, so it's not gonna work at once. So let's give it some time. Let's go back to COVID-19 here. It's been deployed, build, average 7 minutes, changes. It says here, once the build has been completed, open up your web browser and connect to this link. But for some reason it's not updating yet, but oh yeah, there's a mistake here. Wait a minute. It happens. Enter. That should be it. And there you go. So we just make this smaller, and it says here this is version 1, and this is what it shows here. We have successfully deployed a web application to our Jenkins pipeline. So now we can use the web app. We can log in. Let's just use this one, password 3. Sign in. Oh wait, I didn't register, so let me just put username. This one, password 123, University of Missouri, student, and then it should be sign up. Never. Now we use AC, and then password. Sign in. Oh, email. It's this one. Sign in. Alright, so we're here. What we're gonna do now is we can play a little bit with the website. I'm not sure how updated is this website, since I'm just checking with but still we can make some changes, I guess. Doesn't show up anything for me because this is probably a version of the website that is not really showing anything in the results here, but the important part is that we were able to deploy this in our Jenkins pipeline. So that's what it's asking us to do here, just to take a look at the website. And then if we go back to the same link that we went in the beginning, which was the main page here, COVID app, COVID-19 website, source, main, resources, static, JS. Oh no, I went back to the main, resources, templates, and then index. And let's just change this to, it's asking us to change something in the website. So instead of saying version 1, we're gonna make a change in the HTML file, and let me commit this from GitHub, and let's see what happened with our Jenkins pipeline. Just update version to version 2. This should be specific with the commit changes. I'll save it, and then it's taking us to check for new build. So let's build it again. Let's go back to COVID-19, build now. It should take us like short time now, since we're just making a small change. Console output. Let's see. All right, it says finished, success. We have two different builds, both of them built successfully. And if you go back to your website and we update, it should take us a little bit of time here again, because we just make a change in the server. So right, just give it some time. So update here, we have the different. This is the second build. As you can see here, there was one commit. But again, let's say you're working in a team, you have 10 developers working in different branches, and all of them make changes or commits at the same time. So you're going to see different commits from here. So, and again, if you just put your cursor in the commit, you can see what was the change. So update index, and then probably if you go to the details here, let's see. Yeah, it's telling you what happened. So, and this description, it's pretty neat. And now it's updating. Just give it some time. And now it should say version 2, effectively, the one that we just changed. All right, so now what we're gonna do is okay, so that's what it's mentioning here, why it's kind of deploying a little bit slow. All right, so now something else that I wanted to tell you about the deployment and per se the repo that you're using here. If you're curious, you can look like at different files that you have in here and things that are happening automatically from the back. So if you check here, install sh, there are like a lot of things that are being installed. So some of the things are things that we have already done. So you can also like make changes here and make things more automatically, but I just wanted to have things more easy for you to follow and don't get confused with all these configuration files and make changes in your repo. So that's why if you take a look at this file, you're gonna notice that there are certain things that we do or we did in the Word document that I just showed with you. I'm gonna share it with you. Also, if you go to here in MySQL, this was one of the main issues that I had in the beginning because I didn't understand why the integration was made in this way. But basically, if you check here the Docker file, there are certain things that you need to comment out because we have already installed all these dependencies already, so we don't need to change it. And plus, because of your OS is different, it's a different flavor, it's not going to work if you try to update with this command line. So I recommend you to comment out this one. And then from here, the main file here, this Docker compose file, you don't have to change anything in there. There was another Docker file. Okay, this Docker file is the one that you have to change. So these two we have already installed in the Word document. So again, these two command lines are not gonna work. So just comment it out. Just keep it for you as a reference and to know what exactly you have to change, because you're gonna be forking your the repo from another account that it doesn't have any changes. So try to have these two and these two as well commented out. So that's the other main changes that you have to make with the repo. And yeah, so that's what we have just done and we just complete. and we should be done. Again, you have to release your resources here. You just close the node, and what you can do is you just go to the main page, and you might have here different experiments going on. I have 2 Jenkins experiments. The first one is the one that I was testing. So by default, it's gonna be on or live for 16 hours. So, but it's better just to release resources in case there might be other people who wants to run the same profile. So let's just terminate the experiment, and I'm gonna do the same with the next one. And after I terminate this one, that should be it in terms of the resources for the experiments that we have in Cloud Lab. So right now I don't have any experiments running. These are going to disappear in a moment. I just terminated them. So this is one gone, and probably in 1 or 2 minutes the other one is going to be gone as well. All right, I don't have any active experiments right now. I'll just close my session, and of course this is not going to work anymore because I just deleted my node. So that's what we have, and we have completed this lab. I hope you can go through the video, and I hope it's going to be useful for you. And yeah, so that's it. Thank you.